And here you can see paper cups, uniforms, hamburger patties, and so forth. And it's listed in descending order. All right, let's move on to our next section, which is analyzing market changes. Changes in supply and demand can affect changes in prices. If supply is growing but demand is not growing as fast, staying constant, or declining, prices will fall. If demand is growing but supply is not growing as fast, staying constant, or declining, prices will rise. Many conditions can simultaneously impact supply and demand, such as regulatory changes, new suppliers entering the market, substitute products entering the market, and new buying organizations entering the market. It is important to research all conditions to determine which conditions have the strongest impact on a market. And let me go over a quick example to talk about this. For example, many large buying organizations begin demanding a product, yet few small suppliers begin supplying that product in the same time period, there will be a strong upward pressure on price, all other factors being equal. Now, if the same number of large suppliers began supplying the product, but there were very few small new buying organizations demanding that product, there would be a strong downward pressure on price, all other factors being equal. And for our last topic of today's webinar, let's talk about using savings techniques. 4 techniques for achieving savings include standardization, value analysis, savings sharing, and negotiation. Standardization involves reducing the number of variations of a certain type of purchased product. For example, using the same type of radios in different model cars. Value analysis involves improving the specification so that cost is reduced without negatively impacting quality. Savings sharing involves a collaboration with the supplier to identify costs that can be removed and restructuring pricing so that the relationship becomes more profitable for both organizations. Negotiation involves communicating persuasively to achieve a lower cost. Negotiation and standardization can be easier to implement than to other techniques. Generally, in competitive situations, the purchasing professional can afford to be more aggressive in negotiations because there is less of a likelihood of a supplier declining business, and even if the supplier did decline the business, the purchasing professional would still have many options left. In a sole source situation, the purchasing professional should be more collaborative and interested in a mutually beneficial solution. Okay, that concludes part 1 of today's webinar. Now we can move into part 2, where you get to ask questions and I will answer them. So please turn your attention to that Q&A section on your WebEx console and type your question in the space provided. Hit the send button to send your question to me. I will read your question aloud and answer it live right here on today's webinar. So now is the time to start submitting those questions. We have just a short amount of time for questions, so I encourage you to start typing your questions now and submit them as quickly as possible. Alrighty, while we're waiting for questions to roll in, I am going to go over a few reminders, or actually just one reminder. That reminder is that our goal at the Next Level Purchasing Association has always been to help you deliver results in the workplace and as an outcome have a more rewarding purchasing career. These webinars are designed to help you retain what you've learned in our courses so that you can be at the top of your game throughout your entire career, not just immediately after training. Simply put, we want you to benefit from our training forever. We have 4 webinars for each course. As you can see on your screen, this is retention webinar number 1. We offer these webinars quarterly, and then after we get through all 4, they will repeat every year. with any updates that we add. I encourage you to attend every webinar, even if you've already been to it in the prior year. And the point of my recommendation is so that you can continually keep the knowledge fresh in your mind. There's a lot of stuff that you can forget over a one-year period. I know I forget a lot of stuff over a course of a year, and this is a good way to refresh your memory. Okay, I'm taking a look through our question queue, and this may take a moment since I asked many of you to indicate whether or not you can hear me, and thanks again to all of you who said that you can. All righty. It doesn't look like any questions have rolled in, so I'm going to give you guys another 20 seconds or so to submit any questions. In the meantime, I am going to respond real quickly privately to the individual who said they can't hear me. So if you have any questions, now's the time to submit them. Still waiting for questions. So I have a feeling that we may roll in. So I am going to extend this just another minute or so, and then go there. So hang on one second. Some of you are using the chat feature, which unfortunately disappears from my screen quicker than I can get to it. So if you can use the Q&A section, that is the more appropriate place for your questions. If you typed anything in the chat, please go to the Q&A section and retype it. I did see something pop up and then it disappeared just as quickly. So WebEx has been a little bit of a challenge from a hosting end. We may end up replacing it. So just ask you to retype it there. And it looks like questions are rolling in, so I'm going to give you guys another minute or so for questions. Okay. So going to the question queue. First question comes from Candace Altenberg. Candace asks, hi there, will you be providing a hard copy of these webinar outlines? Actually, Candace, what is even more beneficial, since these are kind of bullet points, all of the information in our retention webinars are included in the quick reference guides that were in the download section of the course. So please refer to your quick reference guides. Kind of the webinar slides, we don't distribute them because they're just kind of bullet points when they are the information is already explained in the quick reference guides. Quick reference guides are very short, hence the name, but they are also more complete, allowing great reference for when you're either studying for your exam or looking to remind yourself of something to implement in the workplace. So they are the kind of accompanying document that is distributed. So thanks for that question. Next question. Let's see if I can tell who this is coming from. Sorry. Anthony Cialini, who asks, very high level, do you drill down? Do you provide any templates or examples? Yeah, Anthony, these retention webinars are designed to be kind of just memory refreshers from the course material. Certainly, the courses are very, very detailed with plenty of examples. You know, obviously the course takes about 8 hours to complete. These webinars are designed to be about 15 to 30 minutes in length. So yeah, if you are looking for more details, more examples, and so forth, the courses on which these are based provide that. If you've completed the course, I hope that you have saved your printer-friendly version if you no longer have access to it, because there you'll find all of the relevant examples and so forth. If you do have a specific topic that we covered today that you'd like me to drill down into, you know, please do type up what that topic is that you didn't understand, and I would be glad to go into a more detailed level for that. I do know that in recent times, because of changes and new hires and so forth, some people who have not completed the class are ending up in these retention webinars somehow. So if you have arrived at the retention webinar without taking the class, I do apologize for that. You know, you shouldn't have invited. These retention webinars are designed as kind of just tools to jog your memory of things that you already learned in the class. They're not really intended to go into the level of detail that the class has gone into. So I apologize if someone has invited any of you for that. Anthony also asked, do you provide a copy of the presentation? I, again, answered that with regard to the quick reference guides. They are almost my script for today's webinar. So not only do you get the bullet points, but you get the more full explanation. Candace writes back, awesome, thank you for the information. You're very welcome, Candace. Thanks for your feedback. Another question comes in. Let's see. I can't always see who answers that. Ask this. Arthur Howard asks, do you have any contract templates? I believe we have one in the NLPA library. If your subscription includes that. Also, I definitely know for sure that if you have completed the course, or if actually even enrolled in the course, supply management contract writing, that's included. And actually, in 14 Purchasing Best Practices, I think the sample tool and template pack, which is among the downloads, includes a contract template. So yeah, that's relevant for those of you who have taken this class. Please consult your template tool and sample tool and template pack, and there you will find a contract template. Christopher Binley asks, what is the best practice to negotiate a lease renewal, for example, a forklift? And I'm trying to think if we have covered that in this course. I have personally never leased a forklift. Trying to think which course covers leases. I know that there is a. Trying to think which course it is in Powerful Negotiation for Successful Buying. There is a section on renegotiation and addressing specifications. So if you have covered that, or if you have enrolled in that course, that's one thing that I can point you to. And another thing is that there is an article that we did on leasing versus buying that I'd recommend. So if you go to the Next Level Purchasing Association website, nextlevelpurchasing.com, scroll down all the way to the footer, you'll find a link in the footer for purchasing articles, and among those articles is an article on leasing versus buying, and I recommend you check that out. So thanks for that question, Christopher, and those are resources I can direct you to. So there's a question or a submission regarding the volume. And let me see this other question here. Okay, please expound on the best practice to negotiate with a sole source supplier. All right, this I could go on for a couple of hours on this very topic, but what I will say is that with a sole source supplier, what you have to realize is that you cannot negotiate with a sole source supplier using the same techniques that you use in a competitive situation. You have to approach that supplier in a different manner. You kind of have to be a partner with that supplier, and instead of saying we'll just buy it from someone else, you can't. It's a sole source, so you have to partner with that supplier. In some cases, you have to appeal to that supplier's emotion. You know, you can gently call out that supplier and say, look, I kind of feel that this deal isn't equitable, isn't fair. I'd like to achieve something reasonable here with this. Reasonable is a very powerful word because everyone wants to be, I shouldn't say everyone, but most business people have a desire to be reasonable. That doesn't mean that they're not profitable, but reasonable is a very powerful word. Again, a powerful negotiation for successful buying has some tips specifically on that. Let me see. I'm going to take screen sharing off for a second because I think we may have some articles on that same page I referenced earlier. So hopefully you're able to continue hearing me, even though my screen isn't shared. I'm going to take a quick pop over to our articles page and see if I can find something. Tells me I have some good articles on sole source, dealing with sole source. Let me go to that. And all right, just trying to pull up the article and the name of it. Okay, article number 295 is called Creative Negotiation with Sole Source Vendors. And one of the things that I teach in this article is looking at changes that you can make to your business, things that you can trade with that sole source supplier, and asking some questions in kind of an exploratory manner with that supplier. And a lot of times, there's things that you do in your business that actually cost the supplier money, so the supplier has to bake those requirements into their price. So here's what you could do. You ask questions that begin with the same three words. What if we? And in that article, there's some examples. What if we paid you in 15 days instead of 30? What could we do with the price, or assuming you're negotiating price? If you're negotiating another term, just substitute what I'm about to say for price with that other term. What if we paid you in 15 days instead of 30? What can we do with the price then? Okay. Let them answer, digest that answer. Ask another question like, well, what if we extended the term of the contract for 1 more year? What if we agreed to serve as a reference for you? What if we participated in a case study or testimonial for you? What if we stopped requiring you to blank and fill in the blank with whatever you require the supplier to do that you might not need to require them to do? So that's just some quick ideas. The article goes on with additional suggestions. So those are some things to try. see if there's any additional questions that have come in. And it looks like that is the last one. So we'll wrap things up for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. And the next retention webinar for 14 Purchasing Best Practices will be in August, so look for an email closer to that date. If you have completed the course Savings Strategy Development, the next retention webinar for that is next week, and by now you should have received registration instructions. If you have completed that course and haven't gotten registration instructions, simply contact us at our offices. We'd love to have you in on that. So this is Charles Dominic for the Next Level Purchasing Association signing off, and thank you for joining me today. Good day, everyone.